He hit her in the head without thinking it would matter. That was the first mistake. The second was assuming that in a place like Ravenfall Base, buried deep in the desert and scrubbed from most maps, rank and routine still protected ignorance. Captain Elise Morgan staggered sideways when the steel clipboard connected with her temple, the crack sharp enough to echo down the concrete corridor. For a split second, the world tilted, fluorescent lights smearing into white streaks, and she tasted blood. The room smelled like oil and ozone, the ever-present scent of machines that never slept. She didn't scream. She didn't even fall. She just stared at Sergeant Hale with a look that made his confidence evaporate. "You were ordered to stand down," Hale snapped, trying to mask the tremor in his voice. Around them, consoles hummed, and half a dozen enlisted personnel pretended not to notice what had just happened. Ravenfall survived on silence. Elise slowly straightened, one hand pressed to her head, fingers coming away red. She smiled, and that smile was wrong. Not angry, not afraid, just knowing. "You shouldn't have done that," she said quietly, as if offering advice instead of a warning. Hale scoffed, though sweat had already broken across his brow. "You don't get to question classified operations, Captain. You're medical oversight, nothing more." He turned away from her, toward the main terminal, believing the moment had passed. He didn't see her reach into the inside pocket of her uniform. He didn't see her thumb press against the flat black surface of a device no larger than a coin. Elise had arrived at Ravenfall 8 months earlier, with paperwork so clean it might as well have been fabricated. In a way, it was. Her clearance wasn't listed in the base system because it didn't exist in the base system. The pain in her head was real, the dizziness was real, but what Hale had struck wasn't just an officer, it was a contingency. Across the continent, in 3 separate secure locations, alarms activated without sound. Red lights blinked once, then held steady. Encryption keys unfolded like locked flowers opening to the sun. A message flashed on 3 screens, each identical, each devastatingly brief. Omega Black triggered, Ravenfall Base, confirmation received. Within seconds, phones that never rang were ringing. Men who answered to no one else stood from their chairs. Back at Ravenfall, Elise swayed and caught herself on the edge of a console. Someone moved to help her, then thought better of it. Hale noticed the shift in the room, the subtle way posture changed, the way people suddenly looked at Elise instead of him. "Get back to work," he barked. "All of you." No one moved. A low rumble vibrated through the floor, so faint it could have been imagined. Then another. The lights flickered. Hale frowned. "What the hell is that?" Elise finally looked away from him, gazing up toward the ceiling as if she could see through layers of concrete and reinforced steel. "That," she said, "is the sound of your career ending." The intercom crackled to life before Hale could respond. Not the usual static-laced voice of base operations, but something crisp, controlled, and very, very official. "All personnel, this is Central Command. Stand by for immediate lockdown. Repeat, immediate lockdown." The words slammed into the room like a physical force. Ravenfall had drills. Ravenfall had protocols. This wasn't one of them. Blast doors began to slide shut along the corridor, heavy steel slamming into place. Consoles locked themselves, screens went black. Hale's radio erupted with overlapping voices, panic threading through discipline. "Sir, we've got unidentified aircraft inbound. Sir, airspace control has been overridden. Sir, we've lost external comms." Hale turned back to Elise, his face pale now. "What did you do?" he demanded. Elise met his gaze, and for the first time there was no softness in her eyes. "I survived," she said. "You hit me. That was enough." Outside, the desert sky filled with the thunder of engines, not jets, something heavier, something meant to be seen. 3 black aircraft descended in perfect formation, ignoring Ravenfall's automated defenses as if they weren't there. The base's anti-air systems didn't even power up. They had been told long ago never to do so under these circumstances. The first aircraft touched down, kicking up a storm of sand, then the second, then the third. The ramp of the lead craft lowered, and a figure stepped out, his uniform bearing insignia that most of the base personnel had only seen in history books. General Marcus Cade didn't hurry, he didn't need to. Behind him came General Ilyana Voss, her expression carved from ice, and General Robert Chen, whose reputation for ending programs, entire programs, was legendary. 3 generals, 3 branches, unified authority. Inside Ravenfall, the intercom spoke again. All personnel will remain where they are. Any attempt to interfere will be treated as an act of treason. Hale felt his knees weaken. Treason. The word echoed in his skull. He had enforced orders, he had followed procedure, he had hit a subordinate officer for insubordination. That was all. That had to be all. "Who are they?" he whispered. Elise exhaled slowly, the adrenaline finally ebbing. "They're the people you never get briefed on," she said, "the ones who show up when something has gone very, very wrong." Footsteps echoed in the corridor outside as armed escorts moved with terrifying precision. The blast doors opened again, but only part way, enough to admit the generals and their detail. When Cade entered the control room, every person snapped to attention on instinct alone. Hale tried to do the same and failed. Cade's eyes went immediately to Elise. He crossed the room in 3 strides, stopping inches from her. "Captain Morgan," he said, his voice gentle in a way that somehow made it worse. "Are you injured?" "Yes, sir," Elise nodded once. Cade turned, the gentleness vanishing like it had never existed. "Who struck her?" Silence, heavy, suffocating. Hale swallowed and stepped forward. "I did, sir." General Voss didn't even look at him. She was studying the room, the screens, the frozen systems. "Initiate full shutdown, effective immediately." Chen nodded. "Ravenfall base is no longer operational." The words were final, absolute. Hale's mouth opened. "Sir, you can't just— this base is critical. Years of work." Cade raised his hand, and Hale fell silent. "This base violated a classified ethical boundary 6 weeks ago," Cade said. "You continued operations without authorization, you concealed data, and then you assaulted the officer assigned to monitor you." Elise closed her eyes as medics finally reached her side. She let them guide her to a chair. The room buzzed with disbelief. "Captain Morgan," Chen said, turning toward her now, "you did exactly what you were sent to do." Elise looked up at the 3 generals, blood dried along her hairline. "I tried to stop it," she said quietly. "They wouldn't listen." Voss nodded once. "They never do." Outside, generators powered down, antennas folded. Ravenfall base, a fortress of secrets, went dark under the noon sun. Personnel would be reassigned, records sealed. Some people would vanish into court-martials and classified trials. Others would simply disappear. Hale was escorted away, his protest swallowed by the hum of boots on concrete. As Elise was helped toward the exit, she glanced back once at the room where it had all unraveled. All because someone had decided she was expendable. All because someone believed power only flowed downward. Outside, the desert wind brushed her face, cool against the swelling bruise. General Cade walked beside her. "You did good work," he said. Elise didn't smile this time. "I got hit in the head," she replied. Cade allowed himself a thin smile. "Yes," he said, and minutes later the entire base was shut down. The aircraft lifted off one by one, carrying the truth away. Ravenfall base would become a rumor, then a footnote, then nothing at all. But somewhere in a secure archive, a single line would remain, stamped with the highest clearance imaginable. Incident trigger, assault on oversight officer. Response, total shutdown. And anyone who read it would understand one simple lesson. Some people are protected not by rank, but by what they know, and hitting them is never just a mistake.